YouTube. YouTube can be a very, very crazy place. It's as I said before many times. YouTube is the Jerry Springer show on crack. And I think the heaviest crack users just happen to be the atheists on YouTube. Now, given some of them abstain, all right? But by and large, I think they're pretty heavy crack users. Because there's endless drama among the atheist community on YouTube. Now, it's very interesting because here on YouTube, you know, we have expressions of atheism. You know, we have individuals who sort of, you know, identify as an atheist, and that they would call themselves an atheist in the context of a conversation regarding belief in God and that sort of thing. But their channels are not really about ridiculing, mocking, insulting people who do believe in religion. Rather, their channels are about engaging in questions of philosophy and history and science. And these individuals are here on YouTube, and these are individuals, people that would identify themselves as an atheist in a particular context. But their persona here on YouTube is not really defined by that. These individuals are not very popular. I mean, they have, you know, perhaps thousands of subscribers, but they're not as popular as the most popular YouTube atheists, such as Thunderfoot, Pat Condell, the Amazing Atheist, those sorts of individuals. Now, when you look at individuals like Pat Condell and Thunderfoot, these are very anti-theistic individuals. These are people that they have a very clear agenda. Ridicule, mock, insult religion because it needs to be ridiculed, mocked, and insulted. And in doing that, of course, we need to also sort of ridicule, mock, and insult religious people in some form or fashion. And that's okay because they deserve to be ridiculed and mocked in some form or fashion. And these are the most prominent, I would say, of atheists here on YouTube. They have the most following. They are the most influential, most popular. Now, don't get me wrong, they get criticized by other individual atheists who are not nearly as popular, but by and large, the majority of individuals here on YouTube who identify themselves as atheists and are participating in these sorts of conversations, they are in agreement with folks like Pat Condell and Thunderfoot. Which this presents some very interesting challenges for atheism, right? Because this makes us step back, and of course, look, it doesn't really tell us much about atheism, right? Because atheism is just the belief there is no God or lack of belief. I don't care how you say it. It doesn't matter to me really at this point anymore. But what it does tell us is, you know, because behind this word atheism, there is nothing. There is no individual, there is no philosophy. Nothing stands behind that label atheism except for this notion, this idea of, hey, I don't believe in God. So what we have within atheism then here on YouTube is individuals rising to influence and popularity, and their perspective, their agenda is being disseminated to the masses of people here on YouTube. And they are entertainers. They are people who are engaging in drama. And they wield their power very clearly in ways of which they want to. Whether it's rational or irrational, it doesn't matter. I mean, of course, anyone can say that they are using reason and rationality as a means to accomplish their own agenda. I mean, reason and rationality are... We can use them. Any person can use those to support whatever agenda that they want to go for. You don't have to be a religious person. That's what in some ways I sort of love about YouTube is it shows just how unappealing atheism is. And what I mean by that is it shows how people, when they give up belief in God, it's not like they somehow magically acquire critical thinking skills, reason, rationality, and logic, truth. No, quite the contrary. What we see is people give up belief in God and they continue to remain in patterns of behavior which seem to be the very patterns of behavior they take issue with now among the theists. A bit of hypocrisy, perhaps? I think so. Oh, man. Now, let's contrast that, okay? You have Christians here on YouTube. Now, Christianity is different because, unlike atheism, Christianity is not just merely a proposition. That is to say, Christianity, as it's held among people who label themselves as Christians, is traditionally, it's associated with a person, Jesus Christ. In which case, it can always be brought back to Jesus Christ because he is the central figure. Christianity, Christian, to be a follower of Christ, to be a little Christ. There is a point, there is a criteria, there is a standard. Admittedly, Christians are notorious for being very deviant of the standard, and in many ways they're whores in this way, because they will go off and pursue their own agendas, not unlike what some atheists here on YouTube want to do. And of course, though, like Christians do to atheists, atheists do to Christians, and they will generalize all Christianity and all Christians because of their experience of individual Christians. We all, as humans, do this sort of thing. I think it's a bit odd when people do that, especially when so many of the individuals here on YouTube go about talking about how they are pluralist and how we're critical thinkers and free thinkers and blah, 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 blah. But they're more than willing, folks, come on now. They're more than willing to abandon critical thinking and free thinking when they want to be human. Basically, when they want to indulge in their bias and anger and frustration and emotions and prejudices. Now they're more than willing. Now, they're more than willing to use words like reason, rationality, and logic to support those feelings and senses and agendas that they have. You don't need to be a religious person. That's what I love about YouTube atheist community, is they demonstrate all of this. They demonstrate the humanity and the hypocrisy and inconsistency. They demonstrate that despite the fact that so many of them like to pronounce how they are such rational, reasonable people, in a community that so oftentimes goes about making fun of, ridiculing, mocking, insulting theists, you see among them what? Who are the most popular? The entertainers, the drama queens, the drama kings, the drama whores. You don't see the most popular atheists on YouTube being individuals that are really going about trying to pursue in an unbiased, sort of balanced way issues of philosophy and science and culture and history and music. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some individuals here on YouTube, but they are not the most popular ones. And I think in part it's because they are not so anti-theistic. They are not so dogmatic. Can we learn something from this? People like to be dogmatic. They like the notions of black and white. They like the appeal, the idea of ending something, ending their opponents, aspiring to be superior than their opponents in some way, whether they use God to achieve that end or whether they use the language of science to do so. It's still there. It's still there. The thing with Christianity, though, is we face a problem as Christians. It's a good problem that Christians face, and that's Jesus Christ. You can't get rid of him. Well, you could, but he's always going to be there. When you go back to the Gospels, you're always going to see his message. Love your enemies. Pray for those that persecute you. You're always going to see the message in the New Testament of being mindful of how you treat others. Being, the message of Christ is so, it's interesting because, I mean, people can, of course, ignore Jesus Christ and still label themselves as Christians, but Jesus Christ is always still there. Now, among atheists, there isn't that. There isn't sort of that safety guard in place. In some ways, I think that's almost even, it makes atheism, as I'm seeing it transpire on YouTube, a greater threat and a greater danger than Christianity will ever be. Atheism has no central figure of which they will always be reminded of. Christians will. We always will. We will always have Jesus Christ, who will oppose the proud. He will oppose the pursuit of riches and power and wealth and using it to oppress people. We will always have. He is what defines Christianity by and large. The foundation. Atheism does not have that. They pick who they want. Who are they picking here on YouTube? Who are they picking here on YouTube? It seems like the majority of them have spoken already, who they are picking. And I think it's very telling about, it tells us something very, and I think in some ways there could be concern about who is being picked to be sort of that foundation for people. Now, of course, individual Christians can pick pastors and people to listen to, but behind those pastors, behind those churches, we still have the one figure of which can always be brought up, of which can always challenge them. Because, like I said, Jesus Christ is the heart of Christianity.